Your Excellencies, esteemed guests, honorable delegates, ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to you all. It is with great pleasure that we welcome you to Georgetown, Qatar's annual Model United Nations Conference. My name is Burhan Mahmoud, and I will serve as the Deputy Secretary General and President of the Advisory Panel to the European Union of this year's conference. What's great about Model United Nations is that it brings together people from different backgrounds and nationalities, with different experiences and perspectives, to discuss and debate many of the issues that are prevalent today. This diversity adds to the essence of our conference and shapes the experience we hope you will gain. The Executive Board replicated the notion of diversity while preparing the content for this conference. The issues in the different committees touch upon many regions around the globe, stretching from the rise of India and China to the refugee crisis in Europe. The notion also applies to issues that stretch beyond borders, such as youth employment for sustainability and cyber warfare. We're also joined by a large group of chairs, press team, and administrative staff who have played a significant role in the preparation and are an integral part of this conference. As we near the start of the first committee session, and personally, my last conference as an undergraduate at Georgetown, I was reminded of this quote. The late auto industry giant Henry Ford once said, "Coming together is a beginning, staying together is progress, and working together is success." This quote stood out to me because of the ways it applies to this conference, and to you, the delegates especially. The platform through which you will come together within your committees is only the beginning. Staying together with the intent of collaboration and reaching consensus on the issue is progress. However, it is only when you work together in alliances and on resolutions that we can call this conference a success. So please do make use of this opportunity. Listen intently, talk to your fellow delegates, and represent your delegation to the best of your abilities. This is your conference, and as such, I challenge you to help us make it a success. Thank you. Please join me in watching a short video on Georgetown University School of Foreign Service in Qatar.
Georgetown in Qatar is unique, I think, in a number of ways. It's unique compared to other universities around the world, or indeed even in Qatar, because of the Georgetown ethos. They call it the Georgetown spirit, Georgetown values. They're not just a slogan. There is something substantive to it that's hard to put your finger on until you've actually lived it.
Georgetown, the kind of special thing about it, even though obviously it's in a Muslim country, is it's a Jesuit school. It has a lot of Catholic values, but of course those values are universal and men and women for others, which is one of the mottos of Georgetown. That's definitely something that I took with me on the service trips. It's something that I take with me in my research.
I love the academic side of it because they teach us a very interdisciplinary approach. There is not one thing you study. You have a background, really good background, and then even in your major classes, you get to pick whatever region, whatever interest. If you're more into the political analysis, if you're more into human rights or justice and peace or that sort of thing. So I like that aspect of it.
What attracted me to the course in university here is, first off, the student body, the diversity in the student body, the facilities that Qatar Foundation offers us, and also the low student-to-teacher ratio. All of these ensure good quality of education. It's interesting to have the mixture of these three in Qatar because Qatar really is the center of politics here in the Middle East.
One of the major differences is that we have very small classes. The largest classes are 15 to 20 people. You can work very directly with each and every individual student. I know nearly all the students by name. They know me, of course, so that's quite different than from the main campus.
To me, the whole community here is just combined to one big family. So even though I'm a freshman, I still know all the seniors, all the juniors, all the sophomores, and we're all connected together. We all celebrate birthdays together, we all enjoy our weekends together, and it's a whole big campus, but we're all connected in some way.
We had access to all our professors, for one, on a daily basis. So we also had so many access to these extracurricular classes that to me were probably one of the best experiences of my life, most educational, and gave me the most exposure. For example, I was in a class called the Zones of Conflict, Zones of Peace. And I got to travel to so many places, Poland and Germany, Bosnia, Northern Ireland, studying post-conflict societies. And these kinds of opportunities, I don't think you can get them anywhere else in the world.
On top of this, you have wonderful diversity. I could have students from all around the globe in one classroom. Very important if you do international politics, for example.
There was a program to do an honors thesis for international politics, which I did. And then I ended up using that thesis and publishing it afterwards, which was a really great opportunity for me, and it opened a lot of doors. I liked that there were so many service trips, so I'm not just kind of talking about theories about partition and civil strife and whatever. I actually went to Cyprus, I went to rural Kentucky building houses. So that was really another selling point when I went out onto the job market again. So I would say definitely had a very positive experience, and it's one of the best decisions that I made.
Coming from a high school system which was very rigid, the transition to college, the main thing, it's not just that the professor would go in and give us a lecture and expects us to understand it and do the assignments or the homework and that's it by the class. He cares about educating us through our own knowledge and talking with other students in the class and discussing the same topic. The main requirement for our education is for us to be willing to open a book and to read about a subject and then to come prepared to discuss it in class and to learn from other students.
The student body you encounter here is far more diverse than almost any I've come across in anywhere. For instance, at the moment we've got something like 45 nationalities. Overall, since we started here, we've gone through about 50-odd nationalities. And that's an enormous richness of experience, of cultures, etc. to the student body and to the life of everyone in this community.
We just had Hoya Spirit Day. It's a new tradition the students started 1 year ago. And it's celebrating in particular Georgetown athletics, so the cricket team, men's football, men's women's basketball, but also performances. So we have now Bollywood dance and Debka dance. We have students celebrating, diverse traditions.
To me, it's like home. I don't know, Georgetown just became my family. I walk into other universities, I'm like, they don't have that. They're missing the Georgetown touch of it.
Yes, it's really bad actually, because we keep coming back here for all the events that we're probably not invited to as alumni. But you get really, really attached because they're the people you pull all-nighters with, they're the people that you're in the classes with, they're the people you go on trips with, people you go to all the sports events with. You're on the football team with them, you're on the basketball team with them, you go to the games. It's really like kind of a home away from home.
What's nice about Doha is that it's very small, so it's very easy to get to different parts of the city. It's very culturally active, and so you have places like Qatar or the Pearl that host different cultural events, art exhibitions, festivals, film festivals or dance festivals.
The really great thing about Doha is that there's something more to do every day. Doha is growing so fast. That's something really wonderful about being here.
Our vision here for Georgetown in Qatar is, of course, first of all, to be globally excellent in teaching and research in whole liberal arts, social science and humanities field. But to be excellent in a way that is not insulated, that rather really ties into society at large.
I feel like it's shaped everything I want to do with my life. Before I wasn't sure, it kind of helped me figure out what I wanted to do. So I'm always going to take that with me. And another thing, the Hoya spirit, they just make you so proud to be part of Georgetown and to be a Hoya. So that's something I'm always going to take with me.
It is my distinct pleasure to introduce the next speaker. Gerd Noneman, Dean of Georgetown University's School of Foreign Service in Qatar and Professor of International Relations and Gulf Studies, holds a PhD in politics from the University of Exeter. Previously, he served as Professor of International Relations and Middle East Politics and held the Al-Qasimi Chair in Gulf Studies at the University of Exeter, where he has also directed the Institute of Arab and Islamic Studies and the Center of Gulf Studies. He is a former Executive Director of the British Society for Middle Eastern Studies and is Associate Editor of the Journal of Arabian Studies. Please join me in welcoming to the podium Dean Gord Noneman.
Thank you, Burhan. Well, welcome to all of you from all around the world and from Qatar. It's a delight once again to see so many schools represented here. And welcome also to some of our Georgetown parents, especially. As you see, as the video actually told a few truths, including that this is something of a family. And you see that represented here, even right here today. It always gives me pleasure to welcome events like this and groups like this to Georgetown, even though on this occasion in the Qatar National Convention Center, we're thinking of colonizing this. It's just across the other side of the road. But in any case, we're proud of these kinds of spaces. We like to use these. We like to step outside our own campus in any case. But it always gives me pleasure to do this because it sort of showcases what I think Georgetown's about, and that is reaching out, engaging with the rest of society, even beyond the borders of Qatar, about the kinds of issues that we care about. About how societies are evolving, how economies are evolving and clashing or interacting, how rules and norms are evolving in the world, how institutions are built or fall apart, and how this all affects the lives of millions and billions around the world, and how perhaps all together we can make a difference. That's really what I think was one definition in my mind of what Georgetown's about, what we're trying to do, and to help people acquire the kinds of skills to do that and seek together for wisdom. And so to expand that and to reach out and to bring people into their exercise is something that gives us real pleasure. So I'm hoping that this is going to introduce you, those of you who don't know Georgetown yet, to the institution. It's also going to introduce you very intimately, I think, to our students, because our students are going to be the ones leading a lot of these sessions and committees, and of course they prepared the whole program together with some of our star staff. So you'll get to know them, and it's so easy to be proud of these people. So I look forward to you're getting to know them, and perhaps also for you to see that might be you, whether you end up studying at Georgetown or anywhere else. It hopefully gives you some kind of sense of what being a university student in these sorts of fields can be all about. And finally, of course, it can introduce you to some of the issues. I mean, this whole exercise can introduce you to some of these issues that are so potent and disturbing at times in the world today. The theme of boundaries, what are these? Who puts boundaries there? What do they mean? Has always been pertinent, but it seems perhaps especially pertinent today, given what's happening in this region and other regions around the world, in the South China Sea, in Iraq and Syria, where boundaries have been erased virtually. A number of other regional conflicts, issues. Think of Palestine, where the very existence of what is a state is in question. You look at Europe and a migration crisis, linked, of course, to what's going on in this region, and questions about who controls borders and what should happen at borders. And then we're still only talking about territories. And as I'm at it, as I'm thinking through this now, I mean, I'm reminded of a number of cases within this region going back a few decades where territorial boundaries have always been a question. I mean, of course, territorial boundaries, as we now understand them, are a fairly new invention. Go back a few hundred years, and it didn't really exist quite the same way. Even in Europe, which was very strong at developing these things a few hundred years ago, if you go back further, these were shifting things. In this region here, fixed boundaries are a very new idea. That doesn't mean there weren't political entities roughly centered around where they are now, but the boundary concept was quite distinct, quite different. And then you had a number of interesting examples. I mean, at one point there was a state that was considered still to exist, even though it didn't control its territory anymore. It had been wiped out in other ways, Kuwait, the Kuwait crisis, which caused a number of things, knock-on effects, including arguably some of the things that we're still struggling with in Iraq today, indirectly. As it happens, there were also lots of boundary disputes within the more immediate region here that we're living in now, between the different states of the Gulf themselves, and some of these disputes have not disappeared. So this is something that continues to reverberate. Before I move on to another theme, I just want to point to something that I've always found fascinating, which is that it's in this region that some very imaginative ideas have come up, were invented to deal with such disputes. As some of these states' boundaries were crystallizing, always in negotiation with foreign powers, especially Britain, in an area where fixed boundaries were novel, the interesting idea was brought up between what is now Kuwait and Iraq, Kuwait and Saudi Arabia, Kuwait and Iraq, Kuwait and Saudi Arabia, of neutral zones. So certain zones that were decided, well, let's just consider this zone is controlled by both, even if administratively we split them in half. So interesting ideas like that came up, and other interesting ideas about how to deal with these kinds of issues have come up elsewhere around the world, such as dividing sovereignty between the territorial on the one hand and other kinds of sovereignty, popular sovereignty, for instance, on the other. And those two things not necessarily having to coincide. Belgium's a case in point. I'm not saying that's always working perfectly, but it's interesting. But this question about boundaries and how they define who controls what go well beyond territory, as some of the discussion themes in the commissions that you're going to be part of indicate. You know, who controls the content of the internet? Where are the boundaries of the internet? But almost by definition, there are no boundaries. But as you may know, there's been intense, very disputatious international discussions about precisely trying to frame that, trying to control this. Some states are trying to assert control over their portion of the internet, for instance. And so it continues. So essentially all about who decides who controls what. Who makes these rules? In what kinds of institutions is that rulemaking happening? And where do these discussions, what are legitimate fora for discussions about this? The United Nations is the most obvious, recognized forum for a lot of these kinds of discussions. International law is made in part within the United Nations framework. International economic rules, another key question that's about who decides who controls what. International economic rules, the rules of the international economic game, again, are very contentious. Who makes these rules? And it's always a constant ebb and flow of forces around the world at the local, national, international level, and cross-border level. Civil society comes into this in different ways. So it's hugely complex. This exercise, this event, is a chance to start to grapple with some of that in one particular type of context, that is the United Nations and its various committees and subcommittees. So in dealing with that, in going through this exercise, I really hope you'll get some sense of the reality of this. A lot of it will be confusing. A lot of it you'll find yourselves faced with far too much information that far more than you could possibly cope with. In a lot of it, you'll be faced with personality conflicts, with tiredness, with irritation. Well, that's not just because it's you and it's in this environment. That's because that's the reality. Talk to any diplomat who's lived through years of doing this kind of stuff. That's exactly their experience. So it's not all about rational discussion and taking existing laws and clear evidence and putting it together and coming out with a logical conclusion. The world is a lot messier than that, even in the United Nations. So, and just on a final note, as I said, the United Nations is only one forum where these games are played, where these rules are made, where these negotiations are done. But increasingly within these United Nations fora, you find that outside influences penetrate, that civil society organizations come in, are invited in, sometimes even as observers, as participants in some of these discussions, and so on. The United Nations is strictly speaking a misnomer. It's not really United Nations, it's United States. Some of these states represent nations, others don't. Others represent mixes of nations. But even more complicated than that, a lot of the actors in international politics today aren't either nations or states. And you'll, I'm sure, see this reflected in some of the ways in which you will be dealing within your United Nations framework with some of the issues that are thrown at you. So, on that note, I've talked more than long enough. Welcome again, and I'm now going to invite Abdelaziz Al-Bouainain of the class of 2017 to read the list of participating schools. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Abdelaziz Al-Bouainain, and I am the head of training and Spec Pol Committee Chair. I will now recognize all the schools participating in the 11th Annual MUN Conference. When your school's name is called, we ask that you stand up and remain standing. Kindly hold all your applause until all schools have been called. From Qatar, we have the Academic Bridge Program, the Al Bayan Preparatory School for Girls, Al Jazeera Academy, Al Maha Academy for Girls, Al Arqam Academy, Al Risala Secondary Independent School for Girls, American Academy School, Amna bint Wahab Independent Secondary School for Girls, Awsaj Academy, Cambridge International School for Girls, and Doha Academy Secondary School for Girls, Doha College, DPS Modern Indian School, Global Academy International, Gulf English School, International School of London, Qatar, Michael Debeke High School at Qatar, Middle East International School, Newton International School Lagoon, Newton International School West Bay, Philippine School Doha, Planet Georgetown, the Cambridge School, the English Modern School of Doha, and the Lebanese School of Qatar. And from Bahrain, we have the Abdurrahman Kanu International School. And from China, we have the Beijing National Day School. From Ethiopia, we have the International Community School of Addis Ababa and the Greek Community School of Addis Ababa. From Ghana, we have the SOS Airman Minor International College. And from Greece, we have the American Community School of Athens. And from India, we have the École Mondiale World School. Italy, the American School of Milan. And from Jordan, we have the Mashraq International School and the Baptist School of Amman. And from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, we have the International Program School for the girls and the International Program School for boys. And from Lebanon, we have the Sajess High School. And from Oman, we have the Azan bin Qais International School. South Africa, African Leadership Academy. And from Turkey, we have the FMV Ozil Ayaza Ishik Lisesi School. And ITU GVO Ikram Elgin Khan High School. And from Uganda, we have the Kampala International School of Uganda. And from the United Arab Emirates, the Jumeirah College. And last but not least, from the United States of America, we have the Northfield Mount Hermon. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the participants of the 2016 National Model United Nations Conference.
Please repeat after me. During this conference, I will do my best to find out as much as I can about the country or organization I am representing. I will converse with my peers from countries around the world, in a civilized and respectful manner. Despite multi-party and often heated debates, I will try to remain calm and composed. I will respect the fact that people hailing from different cultures have differing conceptions of the norms of social interactions. I will not only adapt to that, but take it as an opportunity to enhance my intercultural understanding. Thank you. Please be seated. Now it is my pleasure to welcome to the podium a member of Georgetown's class of 2016, this year's Model United Nations Secretary General, Hassan Naimi.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. 22. That's the amount of drafts the board and I have been through before we finally felt confident about this one. Contested boundaries, redefining authority. Our conventional understandings of boundaries have been completely upturned in the past few years. With the emergence of the Islamic State coupled with the Syrian refugee crisis, state borders and geographic territories have continuously been challenged and broken. Scientific boundaries have been surpassed as the global population invests in innovative solutions trying to remedy the consequence of climate change. The internet has transgressed physical boundaries. In its service as a medium for information sharing, the freedom to assemble, and even wage cyber warfare. Simply put, the very systems in which we have grown up to hold as obsolete and timeless have shifted drastically, whether through overthrowing the government or revisiting women's right in the workplace. I mean, think about it. In just the last couple of years, our generation has witnessed the direct and drastic impact of climate change. The Rwandan genocide, the Ethiopian drought, the Iraq war, the Edward Snowden leaks, the Arab Revolution, the rise of the BRIC nations, the war in Lebanon, the Gaza wars, the Lebanon wars, yada, 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 and now Trump is running for president. What a wild childhood we've had, right? I mean, what I'm really trying to convey here, other than giving you a preview of world history, is that from a very young age, we have been exposed to a plethora of information. Due to the advancement of modern technology, mainly, as I can see all of you today, social media. Our generation can no longer simply switch off the TVs and avoid what is happening next door. We see it on Snapchat, we read about it on Twitter, we even get invites about events discussing the issue on Facebook. We have developed a heightened sense of awareness of what's happening all around us at every single moment. Personally, this unique feat, it's definitely has its perks, but it also comes with a fair share of anxiety and exhaustion. But it also has allowed me to see the first-hand accounts from people on the ground, to hear people's expressions of joy and pain. And thus, in many ways, issues on paper, like the ones that we will be discussing in the next 4 days, have become more real and more urgent. Desensitized, out of touch with politics, Generation Me. These are just some of the few phrases that they've been calling us, the millennials. I don't mean to exclude some of you sitting at the front here today, but I think this is a convenient time to really unpack what that really means for us. Just last night, one of my professors raised her arms frustratedly and said, "Why don't you guys cry at tragic movies anymore?" And you know, maybe that's a question better directed at the film industry, but I think it's a lot more than that also. It shows us that the older generation has an anxiety. This anxiety is mostly stemming from the fact that they're worried that we, the millennials, have become desensitized to violence and thus disenchanted with politics. In many ways, this statement is generally true. I mean, just look at polls of young people going out to vote across the globe, and you'll see that these statements are, in fact, not bogus. My years of a Georgetown education in international relations, coupled with 6 years of MUN experience, did not completely prepare me for a tragic experience that I found myself in. See, at some point in my life, I myself identified with that said millennial. 2 years ago, I accompanied an organization that I work with to a Syrian refugee camp in Turkey near its border with Syria. Upon the first day of getting there, after a very warm and hospitable welcome, an old man came up to me and, with tears in his eyes, blurted out, "Nikebtuna, nikebtuna, nikebtuna," in Arabic. That is a loose translation of, "You have betrayed us, you have betrayed us, you have betrayed us." I was completely taken aback. Who is this us that I was apparently a part of, and how could I have betrayed you? I mean, I don't even know you. Soon after, it dawned on me that no matter how personally moving that exchange was, it really was not even about me. To that man, I represented a failing system, one that simply did not do enough. And that was my moment of disenchantment. Feelings of helplessness and frustration at just the thought of seeing just another resolution about the Syrian refugee crisis accompanied me for quite some time. But this feeling of inadequacy that inevitably led to unproductivity, that did nothing for that man that I met 2 years ago. It's one thing to discuss an issue, but it's another to see it, to hear it, and to smell it. This sense of being there, of seeing things for yourself, is even if for a fraction what we experience when we get live updates on our phones. When our smartphones light up with notifications about mass shootings or floods, we feel it too. Yet at the same time, we have all thought, well, what can I do? You know, it just feels like everything's out of control, too many things are happening too fast, we're so cognizant of everything around us. What can we do, right? And I definitely do not fault you for thinking that. I mean, in a sense, we are all here tonight to sort of figure that out, aren't we? You have all put such a great effort in coming here, researching your topics and attempting to wear someone else's shoes, no matter how hard that may be. Of course, there are the perks of getting days off school, and some of you even traveled here, and of course, the dozens of friend requests on Facebook. But I bet you that there's something more to that. These aren't the only incentives at play here. I mean, there's a common sense of compassion and hope to fix things that seem out of our control. In your days here, I urge you to realize that these debating and networking skills that you cultivate will take you far in turning your frustration and passion into proactive legislation. You will see your efforts materialize, and this tonight is a stepping stone. I hope that whenever you feel overwhelmed with the magnitude of suffering in these papers, you will remember that your efforts don't have to be in vain, and that reform is the only way forward. Actually, looking back now, I realize in hindsight, my decision to take up Secretary General this year is precisely because of the compassion and eager curiosity that I see in this room tonight. And so, my fellow millennials, don't be scared to falter. But just remember that there is a drive for justice within you, and that's the one that got you here tonight. And that drive, it usually is here to stay. And so, on a brighter note, ladies and gentlemen, following the talk about the role of social media in portraying political and humanitarian crises, it is my distinct honor to introduce the keynote speaker for this year's Georgetown MUN. Ms. Khatib is a Syrian-born Palestinian journalist and is managing director of AJ+. Dima Khatib launched as a digital-only news platform from Al Jazeera in 2014. AJ+ highlights the stories that matter to people through innovative and informative ways. The goal of AJ+ is to meet its audience in every digital space by creating custom content for online social communities, which include Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and the AJ+ mobile app. Since 1997, Khatib has worked as a correspondent, producer, and Latin America bureau chief for the Al Jazeera Media Network. During the Iraq War, she worked as a live news producer in Doha and was featured in Control Room, a 2004 documentary film about Al Jazeera and its coverage of the 2003 invasion of Iraq. Khatib speaks 8 languages, including Arabic, English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, Chinese, and German. She also has been ranked as one of the top 10 most influential Arabs on Twitter. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dima Khatib to the stage.
Ni hao. Kalispera. I heard some Greek people are here. Assalamu alaikum, Masa al khair. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to introduce Mohammed Aklik. He's an artist who works for AJ Plus. And by the way, we are also millennials. We're just mature millennials. When I was invited to this conference, and I'm very honored to be here, to talk about contested boundaries and redefining authority, I thought it was about my own boundaries and my own authority. So I will not be talking about any of the things people have been talking about, nor any of the things that you will be discussing in this event. I'll actually be telling you about some dreams that I brought with me in my pocket. I'll tell you about 10 dreams of my life, because I think that to achieve all these beautiful things that Hassa talked about, you need to actually have your own dreams. And through your own dreams, you can achieve anything for you and for everyone else. Everyone here has a childhood dream? Raise your hand if you don't. Great. So my childhood dream, as from when I was 6 or so, was to go to Paris. Yeah, I know a lot of children might have that dream if they study French, which is what I did in Syria as a foreign language. So I wanted to go to Paris because it sounded like the perfect place to be to practice my French, and I thought it would be really, I don't know, something extraordinary. So at 16, my father made that dream come true at 16 years of age. So that took 10 years, basically, to materialize. And yeah, I went to Paris and I don't know, nothing happened. Some of the dreams you have, you will achieve them and then nothing happens. You just get there and you wonder why you dreamt about them for 10 years. But it's good to get there. So that dream was achieved. I think it's my turn. Thank you. So that dream was achieved, and I got rid of it. Can I? Yep. Done, finished. Moving on to the next dream. What do I want to become now that I've been to Paris? I wanted to become a pianist. I wanted to become a pianist because I studied piano from 8 years of age, and that seemed like the perfect romantic thing to be. Just sit on stage and play piano for people, teach piano, express myself through music. But when I went to Paris, and after that I went to the States, to the United States for the first time, I spent 1 year in high school and I realized, wow, I can speak so many languages. People here only speak one. And I'm not really so talented at piano. There are so many people that actually play music much better than me at the conservatory, and maybe I should do something that has to do with my talent, where I am different, where I can achieve more than others. I felt piano was not where I was going to achieve more than others, and languages were the way to go. So I changed my mind, and I gave up that dream, and ساعدني. And that was gone. And so how do I use the languages? I will become a translator. I will become an interpreter at the United Nations. I speak languages. I like to travel, so my father encouraged me because he was an ex-diplomat, and he said, yes, my daughter will be a translator. And she will go travel the world. She'll go to these conferences like yours, and she will talk to all these important people. She will be among VIPs, and she will have a great life. She might live in Geneva or New York, not pay tax. You know, all those beautiful things that people do at the UN. And so I looked for the best school for translation in the world, and I found it. It was in Geneva, Switzerland, University of Geneva. And I got a scholarship from the UNESCO to study there, And I got accepted. It was very, 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 very hard to get accepted, but I did because I was determined to be a UN translator. What is he drawing? Hello, marhaba, aywa. You're drawing. This is completely spontaneous, by the way. We haven't prepared this. He's just trying to draw my ideas. So, very interesting. I didn't have those glasses on back then, but it doesn't matter. So I finished my studies, and before I graduated, I had already found a temporary job at WHO, World Health Organization, so that's the UN, that's my dream. And I was the only one selected to do this internship, and I was offered a job. And by the time I graduated, I already had a contract, I was already wearing my suit, going to the UN, and translating, and also interpreting. And I was doing exactly what my father wanted me to do. I was doing exactly what I wanted to do. And I was getting paid a lot of money. And I was not paying tax. And I was going to get this wonderful life ahead of me. And everybody thought I was a very lucky girl. Except I didn't like it. When I got there, I didn't like it because although I was doing what I wanted to do, which is translate from one language to the other, all I was doing was transferring other people's ideas from one place to the other. What about my ideas? When am I going to get to say what I think? Will I spend my life just repeating other people's ideas? So I realized that, that's not what I wanted to do. So basically, I achieved that. I got there. And then I decided I was going to give it up. And I gave it up for nothing. That's because when you know you don't want to do something, you don't want to do something. So I decided I'm giving it up, and I'm going to become a journalist, because that's where they express ideas. And that's where I get to say, in different languages, whatever I want to say. So I didn't have a plan, but I knew I didn't want that. I gave it up, and I worked as a waitress in a restaurant in Geneva. Didn't have the tax-free big salary, didn't wear suits anymore. I worked as a receptionist, a translator, everywhere I could. I worked in a law firm, I worked as a pharmacist, I worked everywhere. I just wanted to survive while I find that other plan of me becoming a journalist somehow while I studied translation. And that opportunity came. It's a long story, I will make it short. I became a translator in the media, and from there, they found that I had a good voice, I could read very well in Arabic and in the different languages that I spoke, so I had a chance to be on air, on radio. And from there I realized, yes, it's working. I'm going to be expressing my ideas at long last. So that landed me somehow in Al Jazeera Media Network in 1997, although the first time I applied, they turned me down. They said I was not good enough. The second time, they didn't reply. And the third time, I was a trainee at the newsroom. And that's where I started, a trainee at the newsroom. And slowly, I became a broadcast journalist. And I made my dream come true. I was a journalist. I covered the Iraq War. It was great. And now I realized, damn it. I was repeating what other people were reporting, so I am repeating other people's ideas again. I am a journalist, but I'm actually not expressing my ideas. I'm taking the news from whatever agencies and putting them on television. I'm just redistributing ideas, but I'm not expressing my ideas. When am I going to get to do that? So I said, best thing is I become a TV reporter. I want to be on TV so I can tell people stories myself. I can do it. So I tried to convince Al Jazeera to put me on TV. That was very difficult, but first time I did a piece to camera, they said I was no good, and that I was very good producing news, and that they need me there. I was one of 2 women only on the news desk, so they were very proud of us. And yeah, there was no need for me to become a reporter, but I was determined. I was going to be a reporter. I got a chance to do some stories from time to time. They even sent me to China, which was not my dream, which was Al Jazeera's dream, but it became my dream in a way. I got to do lots of things, but I was not the reporter I wanted to do. So I said, that's it. I walked out. Again, I walked out. I left Qatar, and I went somewhere else, and then I called Al Jazeera, and I said, well, I'm not coming back. I went on vacation. I'm sorry. You either hire me as a reporter, if you want, from the country where I am, which is China, or that's it. That's the end of it. I don't want to work in the newsroom anymore. So that worked. And I became a roving correspondent out of Hong Kong. So that one achieved. From there, after doing this for 2 years, I realized, I mean, I didn't realize it then, I had realized it before, that what I wanted is to, although I was expressing my ideas, I was going places. I was going Vietnam, Laos, Taiwan. I was telling people about development. I was telling people about elections, democracy, Asia. I could feel that I was conveying the messages I wanted. My old dream was actually to go to Latin America, not to China. China was sort of a midway dream. Because I wanted to build a bridge between Latin America and the Arab world, and I felt we didn't know each other. We could learn so much from each other. It's not just America and North Europe. We need to know about other areas in the world, and we need to learn from how they moved forward from colonization, how they dealt with issues like racial and classist discrimination, how they deal with the variety between indigenous and, you know, all of those issues that I felt would be interesting for us as Arabs to know through Al Jazeera, because now I have a way to express my ideas and tell people about it. So I nagged basically for 7 years to my bosses in Al Jazeera, and I said, well, if you don't send me, then I'm going to go by myself, and I'm going to call you, and you will hire me from there. So, you know, I would nag all the time. Hamad Jassim Al-Ali was the director of Al Jazeera channel. Every time he saw me in the corridor, he's like, I know, you want to go to Latin America. I know, you know, and I always had a plan. Like, yeah, let's go to Colombia, let's go to Argentina. And so finally that actually happened. My personal dream actually became the dream of a group, which is Al Jazeera. I don't think they had plans to go to Latin America initially, but because they had this person who's nagging all the time, she wants to go to Latin America, so, you know, that worked with their vision, and they said, go. You want to go? Okay, go. So I left, and I went to Latin America, and I became the first female bureau chief of Al Jazeera in covering 33 countries in Central and South America. And I traveled all over, and I told the story, the history, the culture, art, everything about Latin America, and it was amazing. Going back here to visit to the Arab world, I would buy something, jewelry or flowers, anywhere, and people would say, aren't you the girl who told the story about a farmer in Bolivia who plants coca leaves that, you know, are used to make cocaine but are healthy in Bolivia? Because I'm like, wow, you know the story, you know where Bolivia is. That's amazing, that's exactly what I wanted to do. So it felt very gratifying. My dream, which followed my passion, because I was fascinated by Latin America, became something that affected people and their understanding, that made them understand there is like a whole world out there. I would go to summits, like Arab summits, to cover them for Al Jazeera, Arab South American, and some heads of states would actually walk to me and say, hello, very nice to meet you. I watch you on TV, and actually, I think a lot about what you say before I make any decisions on Latin America, because you're like the only source from there who speaks to us in Arabic about Latin America. So it was an amazing responsibility at the same time, but amazing opportunity for me to do this. So I did that, and then again something had to happen, which is I was pregnant. And that's suddenly when I realized that, oh, okay. That's suddenly when I realized that I'm actually a woman. Yeah. Yeah. and that I'm not just a reporter and a translator and all these things, and that all these things are great, but I'm actually a woman before all those things, and I'm now a mother. And it's not just me, it's me and somebody else. And it's very difficult to do all those things and be the mom and the woman. So, of course, I had to drop everything again. After 7 years in Latin America, I decided I'm going to stop and I'm going to be a real mom. Just like I was a real reporter, a real translator, a real everything, I'm going to be a real mom. I'm going to do nothing but be a mom. So I took time off, and everybody thought again, like I did with the UN job, that I was crazy. How do you give up Latin America? You're like the voice there. You have, that was your dream. How do you give it up? I gave it up. I had amazing network in Latin America, everywhere. Nobody gives that up. I gave it up. It was the perfect decision for me because I wanted to be there for my son. When he goes to school in the morning, I wanted to go to his first theater appearance. I wanted to go there. When it was his birthday, I missed 3 birthdays out of 5 birthdays of his because I was away in Argentina or Chile or somewhere. So, yeah. So that became my new dream, to be me. And me is be mom to my son, be the best mom I can. Give him everything that I learned through all of those dreams that I had achieved. And to be able to do that, I had to just be that. So during that time, which was amazing, 2.5 years of being just dedicated mom, I also taught at the university part-time. I'd be back before he's back from school. I was there all the time. During that time, I was very active on social media, before that as well. And there was always this Palestine dream in my head that I always wanted to do something about. It's not a dream I chose. All those dreams that you saw were dreams I chose. But the Palestine dream is a dream that was born with me. It's not by choice. So it's something that is still under construction, as is the dream of being the best mom and being me, because it's not something that you can achieve like those dreams. You get there and that's it. Those are big dreams. Those are dreams you can do little things for that many people need to do things about for you to achieve. So, yeah, I did a lot of things for Palestine through my writings, through whatever I could, and I will keep doing it. I don't know if I will ever return, if I can return, but that's definitely a dream I have, to go back home, like my grandmother who left on foot. She said, go back on foot. Don't accept to go by car or bus. Like I left on foot, you will go back on foot. So my dream now is to go back to Palestine, to my grandmother's house on foot. And then, of course, that dream is under construction, so I don't know how we're supposed to... Is that it? Under construction? Okay, so another dream that came out of all of those is for me to make a difference, so people can go after change. And that's not a dream that I was born with. When I wanted to become a pianist or wanted to go to Paris, that's a dream that grew on me, that I could make a difference and make people think, and then maybe they act. And that's why social media was amazing for me. I could talk to people in a way that is different to television. I'm not Al Jazeera on social media. I am Dima, the mom, the writer, the journalist. I found myself writing. I published my first book recently, last year. And this is how you feel you could maybe make little change through things that you like. I like writing, so it's one of my passions, and I will keep writing. So this is where AJ Plus came in place. All of those things where I wanted to make a change, social media, all my experience, and then pooh, this beautiful thing called AJ Plus just appears on my path. So I decide it's really worth it to go back to my profession as a journalist and run this project while still trying to be the best mom in the world, while still trying to do the things that I want to do for Palestine while still trying to return and while still trying to make a difference, to make change through this new project that I'm leading, which is AJ+, and I'd like to show you a little video before I continue. Can you play the video, please?
Detroit got no water, but co-stealing Nigerian daughters. Israel just started to knock more. The Americans want immigrants off the border. AJ+ bringing that social order. You want that experience? We got that. You want that engagement? Yeah, we got that. I just empowered your feed right through a rap. And half of y'all didn't know polio was back. Hashtags and body bags, poverty and poor rags. Germany, Blue Eye, Brazil, Argentina going mad. Military plans expand from Japan, resulting in self-immolation of a man. Hobby Lobby, snooping in your healthcare plans. Supreme Court ruled in favor of birth control got banned. It's just another story. We tell real stories for the people, keeping the narrative on an equal. Let's talk staffing. Francesca, give you the laughing. Leader from the MENA platforms runs the tech arena. Here we go. Digital journals and new promos and hooded up logos, editorial leads with engaging photos. On the narrative, friend. This is not a trend. The end is the truth, and the truth is the end. No pretending. World captured in video lenses. Hashtags trending. Another war started. Another war ended. The global, diversifying total. The plus is the noble. Oh no, another leak from Edward Snowden. Big brother has gone undercover NSA hacks. Now who's getting tracked? Is it just a matter of fact? Civil liberties under attack. Should we react? What policies to enact? What's the next step? You with me? I'm with you. AJ+ people that think social glue.
Want more? Download the AJ+ mobile app and join the conversation. Available in your app store now.
So I want to thank Mohammed Aklik, who did a great job, and I want to thank Mu'min Banani, Head of Creative at AJ+ Arabi, who helped me organize this. I want to thank you. I'm taking my 3 ongoing dreams with me, and I hope you always carry your dreams with you. Explore your strengths, look for your passions, and turn them into dreams. Put them in your pocket and walk around. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Khatib, for that captivating address. Can we please have another round of applause for Ms. Khatib? Hello, everybody. My name is Naya Brana, and today I will be acknowledging our GMUN 2016 chairs. They're behind the scenes a lot of the times, and these students have taken time out of their busy schedules to train and help us make this conference the best that it can be for you and for us. Chairs and rapporteurs, please stand and remain standing when your name is called, and please hold all applause till the end. In no particular order, the Human Rights Commission, President Wissam Keynes, Vice President Jihan Ben Amr, and Rapporteur Sheila Nasri. Environment Program, President Asla Al-Tansik, and Rapporteur Shiza Abbasi. Economic and Social Committee, President Samia Ayer, and Vice President Walid Zahur. Disarmament and International Security Committee, President Taimur Ali, Vice President Diala Jandali. Special Political and Decolonization Committee, President Abdulaziz Al-Bouanen, Vice President Sheba George, and Rapporteur Samira Al-Hajabad. The Crime and Punishment Committee, over which I will be presiding, and my Vice President Rand Ashab, and Rapporteur Al-Harith Ali. The Futuristic Committee, President Rana Tahir, and Vice President Muhammad Abu Hawash. The Security Council, President Thana Al-Salabi, and Vice President Omar Abad, with Rapporteur Nabila Azaro. And last but not least, the Advisory Panel to the European Union, President Burhan Mahmoud, and Rapporteur Sara Alamin. Ladies and gentlemen, can you please join me in giving a round of applause for the GMUN 2016 chairs and rapporteurs. And now the moment we've been waiting for. With the power vested in me by the Georgetown Model United Nations Student Board, it is my distinct pleasure to officially declare Georgetown, Qatar Model United Nations 2016 officially open.